declaring the winner by TKO and new UFC undisputed light heavyweight champion of the world, Alex Pereira.
UFC 320 was a great night for MMA fans, and Alex Pereira is once again the UFC light heavyweight champion. It almost seems like a storybook ending, but when you consider the following, the probability is almost certain. Being one of very few individuals with extensive knowledge of the multiverse, I can tell you of several interesting realities regarding Pereira and his career in combat sports, as well as several lacking any such athletic career. For example, Universe 4227 has Pereira working at the same tire shop he has worked in since he was a teenager, and while this is the case for many different universes, one in particular, Universe 517, has Pereira as the tire shop owner. In this universe, Pereira found kickboxing, where he made a decent amount of money, which allowed him to purchase the tire shop. He never took his career to an elite level, but was well known by the locals, which helped bring in business. Eventually, Pereira's shop was the biggest in the city, and he opened another in the next town over. In Universe 2039, many of the events in Pereira's career play out nearly identical. However, instead of using his money to buy a tire shop, he invested in several Brazilian nightclubs and is a part owner. And while it's not surprising that so many of these alternate worlds have the same stoic combat sports athlete, not all had the same level of success. For example, there are a number of universes where Pereira exclusively fights in kickboxing and never crosses over into MMA, and many of which where he never won a belt. One version, Universe 9447, had a brief stint in MMA, but he didn't have his comeback win against Israel Adesanya, and after his loss he immediately went back to kickboxing, never to return to MMA. Which is quite sad, seeing how we know how his career has played out in this universe. But the universe I want to highlight is Universe 12559, where very much like this one, Pereira won both the UFC middleweight and light heavyweight belts. But furthermore, he's the current UFC heavyweight champ. In this reality, John Jones was stripped of the title much quicker, allowing for Tom Aspinall and Cyril Gane to fight for the undisputed title. As surprising as it sounds, the fight went a full 5 rounds and Gane won a controversial split decision. 1 year later, the UFC set up a super fight between their heavyweight and light heavyweight champs, and Pereira ended up finishing Gane to claim a third title. Things may have played out slightly different in our universe, but there are talks of Pereira potentially fighting for the heavyweight title. Time will tell if things play out in his favor, but in the multiverse, there are endless possibilities. And while my research into the multiverse and their alternate outcomes are almost always of a much more serious and often critical nature, one must find some time to unwind a bit, and like so many of you watching, I do so with combat sports. I hope most of you found these alternate realities amusing, because I plan to do more videos on the multiverse regarding other fighters and MMA-related topics. Take care, fight freaks. Until next time.